Hello, everyone. Chris Berg, political director for Nexstar Media Group's affiliates, all 160 of them across the nation. We're here talking about the political power ranker and the movers and shakers and rule makers who dominate our political scene statewide and federally. And joining me, as always, Spencer Kimball, Emerson College Polling Director. Hey, Spencer, how are you doing? How's the weather out in Boston?
Chris, we actually have nice weather. It's like San Diego here in Boston, but that'll only last for about a moment. So we'll enjoy that. But in the meantime, let's pull together some new polls.
Best time of year to visit Boston, right about now. Walk around and enjoy seafood and have a good time.
Yeah, walk the Freedom Trail, enjoy the
There you
city.
go. Great city to be in. Love it. Love visiting you there and love hanging out. And I even make my way to Cheers every once in a while when I'm there. So
we don't got Norm anymore, unfortunately.
I know, no Norm, but some people refer to me as Cliffy, so I'm not sure if I should take that as a positive or a negative.
You've not been in my kitchen.
Well, today I'm coming to you from the lovely offices here in Bakersfield, California. I've kind of made my way across the country. Earlier this month, I was in Rhode Island, then it was Las Vegas and Iowa, and now I'm all the way on the West Coast. So that's where we're coming to you from. At least I am, and Spencer's in Boston. And today we got big news. We're going to make news today. Emerson College with Spencer and his trustee team have commissioned another poll, a national poll, and we're going to break some news here to talk to you, to share with you what's in this poll, and have Spencer break it down for us. So let's get going, Spencer. We're looking at a hypothetical 2028 run for president. What are we seeing here?
Well, Chris, it's never too early to take a look at the road to the White House, and we're looking at 2028. Now, if you remember back in November after the election, we did a national poll, and we used an open-ended question for the Democrats and Republicans of who voters would like to see their nominee to be in 2028. And then we ran another poll a couple months ago, and we asked people who, based on those open-ended questions, who would they choose if the Democratic nominee or the Republican nominee? And from there, we found that J.D. Vance had a really strong showing on the Republican side. So we put J.D. Vance up against three of the top Democratic candidates that we saw in the polling. And what we've noticed is a very tight race. The Republican Vance has a slight edge over the three Democrats, Buttigieg, AOC, and Newsom. But I think it's interesting, a couple of points here. One, that Democratic coalition that we saw kind of break up in 2024, the Obama coalition of younger voters and females, that has not come back together for the Democrats. And we're seeing that still hold them for the Republicans. And that's an issue, obviously, on the Democratic side if they want to rebuild that coalition. With that said, about 13% are undecided, which is like 20 million people. So 130 million pretty much have made up their mind on the D or the R, but there's still some persuadable folks out there, and it looks like an exciting race for 28.
I mean, 20 million people is quite a lot, considering the past elections, only 100,000 and change made the difference in a bunch of states in total. So talk to me a little bit about this list, though, because this is interesting to me, how you came to, not add a Rubio, not add a DeSantis on the R side. We'll deal with them first. Why is just J.D. Vance polling here for you? Why'd you just choose him?
Well, we did choose him, but it was actually the voters who chose him in our last poll. When we asked those Republicans who they would nominate, Vance was over 40%. Rubio and DeSantis was at 9 and 11. So we're talking 30 point lead for Vance at this stage. So at this point, we see Vance as the front runner. And so we want to test the front runner against the Democratic candidates who don't have a front runner. And so we'll see, obviously, over the course of the election cycle, other Republicans may emerge and try to take on Vance. But right now, he seems to be the de facto candidate for the Republicans.
And it almost seems like Donald Trump is putting him in a position to be the front runner, appointing him to the fundraising chair for the RNC. He's meeting all those big donors, shaking hands. And
I mean, we just had him here, Chris, in Nantucket last night, raising $3 million. So, when a Republican comes to Massachusetts to raise money, that he's meeting very influential people, and that may set him up for that run in 28. This is kind of that under the radar campaign that has to go on to prepare yourself for a presidential run.
Yep, and Rubio and DeSantis they're not making those acquaintances and meetings and taking those meetings. They're doing their jobs.
Well, DeSantis has got a proxy fight going on down in Florida in that governor's race. So we're going to see with his wife running down there. We'll see what happens with his relationship with President Trump. But he was still up there. He was in the top three, right behind Rubio at about 9%. But remember, Vance is over in the 40%. So he's got a lot of room to make up if he wants to become the nominee in 28.
And then just real quick, why AOC, Buttigieg, and Newsom? And there's no Shapiro on this list, no Whitmer. Why'd you narrow it down that way? Or why did the voters narrow it down that way?
Well, they narrowed based on the poll results that we got on the Democratic side. We did take out Harris, former vice president who ran in 24. She was in the top three. We replaced her with AOC. We could have put in Bernie Sanders instead of AOC, but wanted to give the flavor of that progressive movement with a younger candidate to see if younger voters would vote for her. And we did. We saw that she got a plus 14 with the 18 to 29-year-olds. Buttigieg and Newsom only get a plus 5 with that age group. So that coalition that Obama had with that younger vote, AOC was able to capture. Her problem is with older voters. They seem to trend away from her and over to Vance, where Newsom and Buttigieg seem to be stronger with that older vote. So the Democrats obviously have a lot to figure out on their side as their voters start to look at potential candidates for 28.
What did you see in the numbers in relationship to Buttigieg and Newsom on where they've got where they've got to shore up?
Well, for Buttigieg, he's got a good base, but the young vote isn't with him, and the minority vote he struggles with. And in the Democratic primary, that is a big number of voters, minority vote. Same thing with the female vote. That's something that Newsom is stronger with, but not strong enough. And so you've got all of these candidates kind of splintering the field. I think Buttigieg was around 16% in our poll, and Newsom around 11 or 12. So you can see very splintered as opposed to Vance, who was up in the 40s. The Republicans kind of have galvanized around the candidate. Not to say he will be the nominee, but at this point, they see him as the nominee. The Democrats don't see it that way. They're very splintered. So we wanted to kind of capture what these different candidates, because they kind of run in somewhat different lanes, and to see what type of voter would vote for them and do those comparisons.
So we've got another slide that is going to make a little news here. It's the congressional ballot tracking poll that you did. Talk to us about these numbers here. The Republican candidates are a little behind, but that's to be expected. Talk to us about this.
Exactly. So it's a midterm election. Traditionally, the incumbent party loses seats in midterm elections. It happened in 22. It happened in 18. It happened in, it happens. So the idea is that the Democrats should pick up some seats. Now, they need to pick up roughly 5 seats to pick up the House to get to 218. So we'll see what happens there. The good news for the Democrats is that their support, that plus, is across the board. It's in the Northeast, it's in the South, it's in the Midwest, it's in the West. So it's not like they have a pocket of support in the Northeast that maybe they'll pick up some seats in New York or maybe in California out West. It's generally around the country, but it's only a few points. And if you look back at like 2018, they had a much more significant lead when they won all of those seats. And so we'll see if that momentum grows. What I'm noticing, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, is on the issues. If you remember back in 18, healthcare was a main issue. And even in 22, they had the abortion issue on the table. We're going to see what pops up this cycle and what the Democrats are going to be talking about to help motivate those voters.
I think we will be talking about one of those things in a moment. But in reference to energy, people, the old adage is people vote first with their money. And in June, the Republican Congressional Committee outraised the Dems by about $6 million, about 18 million to 12 million. As a pollster, what does that tell you, if anything?
I'm a little cautious on the money situation, only because there's such amount of dark money in politics that comes out after the elections. You're like, oh, I thought that campaign was broke, and then you find out 3 months later that super PAC came in and dropped $30 million, and things happen really quickly with finances. But generally, the Republicans are the ones who are lagging behind in the finances. And what I've seen on the left is a little bit of sour grapes of people who have donated a lot of money to the Democrats and didn't think that they got a good return. And so they're waiting to see where the Democratic Party lands until they start putting that money back into party politics. But I don't expect the Democrats to go broke. I think they'll be able to raise their funds and be very competitive.
Right. Well, hey, let's move on to an issue that is captivating at least the media chattering class and the chattering class, the Jeffrey Epstein issue. And do you approve or disapprove of the Trump administration handling of the Epstein files? Big number here. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, 16% approve, 51% disapprove. Now, in this survey, we had a chance to ask about like 10 issues. We talked about cryptocurrency, Iran. We talked about Israel, Hamas. We talked about Russia. Lots of different issues. This is the worst for Trump. 16% approval is the lowest. 51% disapproval is the highest. So this is an issue where voters are not happy with how things are going on the topic. Even the Trump voter, they're barely giving Trump a pass, 30 to 23. So you can see independents are 8% approve, 56% disapprove. So while the issue may not be the most important, as far as it goes in people's minds, the Trump administration is not approving, or they're not approving of their Trump administration's actions at this time.
I'm wondering if it's, transparency. I mean, you harp on all these issues about the files of JFK and MLK and RFK, Epstein, and when it comes time to release them, you don't. And I wonder if that's just not pushing some buttons on people, saying, "Wait a second, this is just not right."
That certainly may be raising an eyebrow, because when you give expectations and not hit them, that's where candidates really rubber hits the road, and they don't follow through with their campaign promises, and it generally costs people re-election campaigns. This was a big issue on the campaign trail that got a lot of people jazzed up about the election. There's still a lot to play out here, but we'll see. Initially, it seems as if the voters are wanting more from the Trump administration on this one.
Now we got a couple more Epstein slides we want to just talk about here before we go to break. This one, do you think Jeffrey Epstein was murdered or committed or died by suicide, as reported? This has moved. These numbers have moved. It's very interesting. Talk to us about what you're seeing here.
Yeah, if we take a look here, when he first dies, people are very split. Some think he died by suicide, and the same amount pretty much thought he was murdered. A year and a half later, it crystallized and people thought he was murdered, about 2-1. We asked the same question last month, 5 years later, and it's still 2-1. People think that he was murdered. So the idea of what happened in that cell, at least in public opinion, is that he was murdered. And we're going to see if the administration can convince these folks otherwise, based on the evidence that they've yet to produce.
And this is a problem for the Trump administration right now, because it's taking the spotlight away from items that he would consider accomplishments and focusing it all on this issue of murdered or died by suicide.
Well, yeah, and we even see it with the Trump voters. So as we dig into those numbers on, you say, hey, it's still 2-1, but look at those Republicans. Republicans were really big into the murder and not so big into the suicide. They were like plus 35. Now they're a plus 20. That's a 15-point swing over a short period of time. And really the change has been the Trump administration's attitude about the policy. But what the Republicans have maybe switched on, Democrats and independents have filled in that vacuum. And now they're believing in the murder as well. And so it's becoming a larger issue.
And dominating the talk shows and Washington, D.C. as the House adjourns for the summer a little early, because they wanted to avoid this issue being a primary reason. So very interesting stuff, as something that we would not have expected to take the focus away from what Trump is doing on a daily basis and put it on something that happened back in 2019, 6 full years ago. So more to come, though. We've got a lot more on Spencer's poll, the Emerson College Polling Unit, on a national poll, just releasing right now as we speak with breaking news as you're watching right now. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more on the poll that Spencer is just releasing right now. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Political Power Ranker. Chris Berg, political director for Nexstar Media affiliates across the country. Joining me, as always, Spencer Kimball, polling director, Emerson College. Our partner as we go through all of this 2025 and 2026 political information, brand new stuff, breaking news here right on the PPR show. That's my short, for Political Power Ranker, in case anyone's wondering out there. Well, Spencer, we've got another slide here. This one is issues that are most important to the folks in the United States. And this is taking a little bit of a turn. It's very interesting. Talk to us about it.
It is. So we've been asking this question, what's your most important issue? And the economy has been the most important issue for voters, essentially since we started polling. But there's degrees of how important the economy is. And generally, it reflects on how the economy is doing. If the economy is not doing well, then people are very concerned about the economy. If the economy is doing well, then they start looking at other issues. That's one way to kind of look at the data. So what we noticed here is the issue about the economy, which was in the 40s during the election. So when it was Trump Biden or Trump Harris, people were talking the economy, saying it's about the economy. But now we see it drop about 10 points. We're down to about 31%, which is one of the lower numbers on economics. And so we had a chance in the survey to look at different parts of the economy. And there's some aspects that people are okay with. They think interest rates should be higher or should be lower. So they're with Trump on that. But they also think that the economy is doing better since April. If you remember, that was when the stock market dropped, and we were in the field then. Now the stock market's come back, and we've seen about a 16-point shift. So as far as the economy goes, while they may not be satisfied, the numbers are suggesting that they're looking at other issues. And that other issue, particularly for Democrats, is the threats to democracy. This is the highest we've seen that issue in our polling, really since we started tracking it a couple of years ago, especially nationally. And so in the national numbers, it's at 23%, but it's 37% amongst Democrats. So the Republicans usually have one issue in their primaries, and that's the economy. Maybe it's immigration. But the Democrats, they usually have a splattering of issues. Right now, it looks like they're starting to focus in on threats to the economy, which would actually give them an issue for the election, like they had in 2018 with healthcare or 22 with abortion. We'll see if it comes to a boil, but that's what the numbers are showing right now.
Now, threats to democracy, were you able to get more granular? Like, for instance, the ICE raids, the withholding of the Epstein files. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about that data?
Well, I wish I could tell you more about the qualitative side. That will take some focus groups and in-depth interviews to pull that out. But from the numbers side, we can see this is a Democrat issue. It's like 25-3. So the Democrats see it as a major issue right now, but the Republicans don't. So it's definitely talking points from the Democratic side that are connecting with voters. The Republicans, they still see the economy as their top issue. Immigration is still their top issue. But the question will be, can the Democrats convince the independents that threats to democracy is a top issue for them as well? The independents generally trend towards the Republicans when it comes to the economy, but the social issues may pop up for them if the economy is doing well enough. And as I said, over the last maybe 3 months, we saw a significant shift in attitude towards the economy, people saying that they're doing better than they were 6 months ago or so, or a year ago. We'll see if that trend continues as well, or do some of these bumps in the economic road with the stock market cause hesitation with voters?
Right. I mean, it's interesting as someone who's been in the media for 3 decades. it's easy to see how people would support and be all about removing illegal migrants here when they're criminals. But when once you get a lot of those criminals out of the country, now it's people who are here just because they just need a place to live a better life and earn money and raise a family. And that's when you start seeing the videos of crying children, crying mothers, fathers as they are being deported, and by right or wrong, with guys with masks on, masks and badges, and that scares regular old folks too, in the middle of the country, who are supportive of a border fence and managing the migrant issue. Uh, any thoughts on that observation?
Well, we ask about that. Hey, how do you feel about deportation? That attitude has not changed in the last 80 days. About 48% don't like it, 43% do like it. And immigration and deportation is probably Trump's strongest issues today, stronger than the economy, which is surprising, but stronger than his foreign policy. But yeah, the deportation, that's in the 40s. Some of his policies, the crypto is in the 20s, the economy is in the low 40s. So that immigration policy, I expect Trump administration to continue with that, because that seems to be their base of support on policies, and then everything else will come off of that.
Mhm. And looking at your chart for the economy side of it, I mean, 41%, and then it dips down to 32. That's right about the time the whole tariff announcement came, and that's when the stocks tanked dramatically over a course of 3 days, and now we're breaking records. I haven't looked today, but we're breaking new highs in the major indexes. So I'm surprised a little bit that that number's low, but it also could mean that people aren't as worried about it.
Yeah, that's how I interpret the data, is that they're not as worried about the economy, and they're going to look at other issues. Look at the Epstein case. We're talking about the Epstein file, which probably doesn't impact our day-to-day lives, but we're finding it interesting because maybe we have a little bit more time on the economic side. But that's, I don't want to get too far, put the cart too far ahead of the horse. There's a lot of moving parts with the economy. We're in the summertime where things are a little bit slower. It'll be interesting to see, in the school year picks up come late August, early September, and see what the numbers look like then.
All right, we've got one more national slide to share. This is another very interesting one, and I'm going to lead into my question to you. Despite it all, Spencer,
It doesn't change.
it doesn't change.
I mean, we've been watching this, and I'm telling you, the 46% approval, I look back, that's kind of where we had him in 2017, 2019. It's like Trump's got a base of support and he's got a base of opposition. And the two of those bases, they're pretty locked in. It'd be interesting to see what event could occur that would change this. In fact, maybe I don't want to see an event that could occur that would change it, and we can just live in the status quo and just realize. But it is very fascinating to see, his approval dips, but it seems to have now stopped at the 45, 46. The disapproval, though, it is ticking up every month. We do notice that. And it'll be interesting if it continues to, or if he's able to plateau that negative conversation. But I don't know if the Epstein thing is going to be helpful at this point, but it's an opportunity to have a conversation about it.
An opportunity for the opposition party for sure to take advantage of over the next 4, 6, 8 months a year, if the status quo remains as far as the information where it stands now and it's not being released. So we do have to take one last break. Coming up, though, don't go away. This is Who's Up, Who's Down, according to Spencer Kimball at Emerson College Polling. Who's up, who's down this week? It's kind of interesting. You're going to want to stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Political Power Ranker. Chris Berg, along with Spencer Kimball from Emerson College Polling. Now it is time for who's up and who's down, or what's up and what's down as far as politics is concerned. And as I I'm fortunate to travel across the country on a weekly basis doing my job. I get to see a lot of these things in person, and which is fascinating to me because, Spencer, you're spot on these ups and downs as I've seen them as I talk to people as I travel. Let's talk first about up, and that is threats to democracy. We talked about that a little bit ago. Share that thought again, and will that continue to rise?
Well, we all saw in 2019, 2020, the Democrats started this conversation about threats to democracy. And I thought it was kind of artificial at the time, especially going into the 24 election. But now we're coming out of the 24 election and it's still a hot button issue. I'm going to say it's organic now, that they really think of this as a main issue, particularly voters on the left, and it's on the rise. And I think we're going to hear a lot more about threats to democracy in the midterms and potentially for the 28 race.
One thought there, though, that there was a cornerstone of their 24 presidential campaign with Kamala Harris, but she lost. So, is it really something they can hang their hat on?
Well, sometimes after that type of event, that's what you have left. That's the low hanging fruit. And so that was the message of the campaign. If you remember back in 2012, the Republicans were talking about deficit spending and debt. And that was kind of what they left on. And in the midterms, that's what they were still talking about. Even though they lost the election in 2012, that was the focus. And it wasn't until Trump comes in until 16 where it changes the conversation again. I think the left is going to stick with this issue until something else comes up and percolates, because the economy is not a winner for the left. And so I expect them to try to find something like healthcare, abortion, or maybe in this case, threats to democracy.
And then who is down? This is a who.
Well, down at this point is the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files. When we look at all of those issues from U.S. economy, crypto, Russia, Ukraine, this is the lowest approval and the highest disapproval on every issue on the book. And so for that reason, the handling of the Epstein case is on the down.
Well, the people polled have spoken. They have said this is a problem for us, and you might want to fix it, is what I'm hearing from your polling analysis, Spencer. So thank you very much for being part of the show again.
Of course, and I will say, even with the Epstein, I don't know if that will be the one that knocks out Trump. His favorabilities and approval is still holding very strong.
Yep, loud and clear. Spencer, thank you very much. It's time to go. I'm being told to wrap. So thank you very much for watching Political Power Ranker again this week. We'll have a new poll next week. It's going to be from Spencer?
North Carolina.
Big North Carolina race, Senate race there. We're going to have some results there. So please be looking for the show next week. Thank you for joining us and have a great weekend.